Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it! Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it!
Sometimes you have to take a break from being the kind of boss that's always trying to teach people things. Sometimes you have to just be the boss of dancing.
And I know we're in a subjective business, but the truth is, I'm really in pursuit of greatness. I know people don't usually talk like that, but I want to be one of the greats. I'm inspired by the greats. I'm inspired by the greats here tonight. I'm as inspired by Daniel Day-Lewis, Marlon Brando, and Viola Davis as I am by Michael Jordan and Michael Phelps, and I want to be up there. So I'm deeply grateful to that. This doesn't signify that, but it's a little more fuel. It's a little more ammo to keep going. Thank you so much.
Welcome back into The Door Report, episode 304 on a lovelier and warming up Monday evening/afternoon, February 24th, 2025. I am Will Byram, joined as always by my co-host, dressed very snazzily. Doesn't he look nice, ladies and gentlemen watching on YouTube? Mostly gentlemen, but we have some ladies.
Just threw on a rugby.
But I lost track of time just looking at the beautifulness that's sitting beside me.
What
Good
a
God.
man.
Whew.
What a man. Oh.
But here at the Door Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Items include individual cards, graded cards, NFL team packs, and more. You can find them by going to www.ebay.com/str/615collectibles, or you can just go to ebay.com and type in 615 Collectibles in the eBay search bar. Shipping is always fast and free, and there is currently a buy three, get one free deal going on in the store for almost all items in the shop. So check them out on eBay. Trevor, I'm going to get it out early. We have a rapid episode 304.
Yeah, rapid fire edition.
A lot of extenuating circumstances, so we will get them out early to explain why. We say often, this could be a quick episode. This might be a quick episode. We're going to try to make it a quick episode. This time, it has to be a quick episode. We have a 5:50 p.m. hard stop time.
Yeah.
That is the longest we can go. It is currently past 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So we are trying to go as quick as possible, but the maximum time this episode basically can be is 50 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
So, and that's
We've given them enough long content.
And that's really pushing it because Trevor has a meeting at 6:30
with the National Honor Society of Psychology students.
So Trevor has a very fancy, very non-common man event to attend at 6:30. I am currently just getting off work, literally just X'd out of Teams 30 seconds ago, and am on vacation for the next week. I am flying out to Seattle, leaving my house at 5 a.m. tomorrow to fly out to Seattle and visit my best friend from childhood who is stationed in Seattle with the U.S. Navy, and will be going out on a boat again for a lot more months very soon. So I have a very brief window, thanks to the United States government, to see my best friend. So I will be flying out tomorrow. I will be returning Monday evening about midnight. So from tomorrow morning, basically, until Monday evening, Trevor's got the reins.
Yeah.
Trevor's got the reins of the site.
God help us.
I will still be doing as much tweeting as I possibly can, as much posting as I can. I'll be sending Trevor over some graphics and some pre-game graphics and final game graphics, and everything should run as normal. Trevor has all the privileges and everything he needs to post articles. So we will...
Except when it comes to Chuck Losey.
Only so much can fall apart in 7 days. So in 6 days. So everybody out there, if I'm not quite as responsive on the board, I will be attempting to snowboard for the first time in my life, and it will be disastrous. I imagine there's a good chance I will come back in a sling, or I will have a leg propped up after a horrendous ligament injury to do with my knee. There's a very high chance of that. So should be an adventure. I'm a little excited, a little nervous. We will see how it goes, but we have a lot to get to on episode 304. That's going to be the rapid fire edition episode. We have VIP board questions, which are always fun and exciting. I once again forgot to post that message on the board until this morning, but there's been a lot of chaos going on with TDR. So We also have 2 basketball games to recap. One very frustrating, but a very good outcome that gives Vanderbilt Commodore fans a lot of hope. And maybe you should think about dancing off those old Dustin shoes
Yeah,
that have
who
been in
wants
the
to
closet for almost a
dance?
decade. So we have basketball to get to. And then after the TDR cocktail break, Vanderbilt baseball has answered a few questions with their first weekend series, a weekend sweep of St. Mary's. We will dig into that just a little bit. So before we get into all that and much more, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes. And I'm switching it up and putting it at the end so that I emphasize it even more. We are now a part of the Rivals Publisher Network. Please visit www.vanderbilt.rivals.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual membership to support TDR. You can use promo code DOORREPORT, all capital letters, no spaces, for a 30-day, no-risk free trial. Everybody out there, please support TDR by subscribing. That is the best way you can possibly support TDR. Blake often makes the reference to the anthill. That's what the Vanderbilt fan base is. We need more ants.
Yeah.
So anthill, swarm. It's time to swarm.
We need a bunch of fire ants in the
There
chat.
we go. But it's now time for segment 1.
Old school style, yes!
Welcome back into segment 1 of episode 304 of The Door Report. Trevor, we're getting to basketball in segment 1, but first, like always, since we've joined Rivals, we are going to premium board members.
Yep.
We are going to premium subscribers. If you want your questions or comments read / answered on The Door Report, go to vanderbilt.rivals.com. Sign up for a premium membership. You can ask those questions on behind closed doors. So check that out. But I once again, like I said in the intro, didn't post it until late, so we don't have as many responses as we otherwise would, but we do have some. So I will start early and quick. First question, Carey only played 16 minutes. Was this just a case of Glock getting a better matchup, or did something happen with Carey?
I didn't hear anything happening with Jalen Carey, so it leads me to believe it was probably just a matchup. There has been no news, good or bad, on the Jalen Carey front that would make me think he's in some sort of trouble or there's injury issues. So I'd believe it probably just a matchup.
Yeah, I think it was just a matchup thing. I mean, I don't want to state anything because I'm not extremely familiar with Ole Miss. I've watched them a little bit. I obviously watched them play Vanderbilt. Their posts don't seem to be the bang down low type of posts, and they also seem to have a lot of length.
Yeah.
The posts were very long, and Jalen Carey is a stocky, powerful post that if you have a big man that's 7 foot and likes to bang around, Carey can play bigger than he is at 6'8". This Ole Miss game, guys like Malik Dia, that's not really Jalen Carey's game. I think it was just a matchup thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to go game by game. You saw a lot more bench play from the guards. You saw a lot more small lineups. You really did not see, unless I'm mistaken, you did not see a lot of the McLaughlin and Jalen Carey combo against Ole Miss. So I did not get a chance. I want to preface, I usually like to go back and watch at least most of the game again before I come on and talk about it. I did not get a chance to watch the Vanderbilt Ole Miss game again. So everything I'm saying is just my initial watch through of the game, but I did not see as much of the 2 big man combo as I've seen in previous games.
Yeah, probably don't want Jalen Carey on the perimeter with Malik Dia.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue you're running into is one of the 4 men was having to guard Dia.
Yeah.
And even he was a matchup nightmare for Vanderbilt, whether it was Tyler Nickel guarding him, whether it was McLaughlin, whether or Carey, whoever it was, nobody could really guard him. He was a matchup nightmare.
Yeah.
And Malik Dia, I will say, we all joked about it in the group chat that he was going to have a generational game against Vanderbilt. He did.
He
did.
He willed them to almost a victory.
It has been interesting because Malik Dia obviously started his career at Vanderbilt, then transferred to Belmont, was a Bruin for a couple years, and then transferred to Ole Miss. Watching his game change, he is a completely different, not completely, he's still the same player. He's a very different player than when he played at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
He plays a lot stronger, a lot more physical. He's not near as timid. Malik D is a guy that I would love to see in Nashville playing in this Mark Byington offense.
Ooh, he would kill it.
He would be an interesting player to have in this offense because that jumper's looking a lot more consistent than it did when he was at
little
Vanderbilt.
step back.
So have to give some flowers to guys when they come back in tough circumstances with hostile crowds focused on them,
Yeah.
especially the student section. They come out and just ball out. So I'm also giving credit because Vanderbilt did win the game. I don't think I'd be giving flowers if D had tore him up and then Vanderbilt lost. But that's not the first game we have to recap.
No.
The first game, excuse me, I'm 99% better. I had to cough there. The first game we have to recap is a very disappointing second half from the Vanderbilt Commodores against the Kentucky Wildcats in Rupp.
Yeah.
This was part of the stat that you had seen flashed leading up to the Ole Miss game, the 48 points that Vanderbilt had been outscored by in the second halves of the previous 3 games on their 3-game losing streak. This Kentucky game was the worst of the 3.
Yeah.
All were bad. The Tennessee game was awful, whatever. The Kentucky game was a complete meltdown. I mean, Kentucky was hot from the beginning, and Vanderbilt was playing shot for shot with them. Kentucky cooled down, and Vanderbilt's offense just disappeared.
Just whittled away.
In the second half. I don't have a good term for it. Vanderbilt was down 41-40 at halftime. It looked like a shootout. It looked like Vanderbilt was matching Kentucky. Kentucky started out hot, was cooling down a little bit. Vanderbilt had taken a few body blows early and had stayed in the game, and you were feeling, I don't want to say good, because you know the issues this team has on the road, and this was already prevalent before the Kentucky game, but you were thinking, Vanderbilt's right there. This is a big opportunity. They came out in the second half, got outscored 41-21.
Yeah.
Kentucky's offense didn't take a step forward. Kentucky scored the exact same amount of points they did in the first half. Vanderbilt's offense disappeared off the face of the planet.
Couldn't buy a bucket.
Couldn't buy a bucket. And sometimes it goes both ways. Sometimes you can play the best defense in the world and the opponent just hits shots. Sometimes you can run whatever offense you're trying to running and the shots just aren't falling. And I think it was a bit of a combo there in the Kentucky Vanderbilt game. When you put up 21 points and a half, there is always going to be an aspect of when you're not a bad basketball team, which we can all agree this is not a bad Vanderbilt basketball team. Might be bad on the road, but they're not a bad basketball team. When you put up 21 points, you just weren't hitting shots. There's only so much coaching or rotations or whatever you can do. Your scorers just are not hitting shots. And when you look at the box score, Jason Edwards, 10 points against Kentucky. 4 of 12 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. Devin McLaughlin was your leading scorer with 14. He played pretty well. That was kind of the only guy that I would say played pretty well, him and Carey. Carey had 12 points. Other than that, your guys that you just expect offensive production from, Jason Edwards is one of them. 10 points is not enough.
No.
Tyler Nickel, 3 points. A.J. Hogard, 5 points. Chris Magnon, who is the star of the Ole Miss win, 7 points.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of this when you run down the list. MJ Collins, 6. Just guys could not get it going on the offensive side of things. Let's move on to the game that we actually want to talk about. The all-important had been quoted as a must-win matchup potentially, not technically, not that it eliminated Vanderbilt from true bubble contention if they lost to Ole Miss at home. But Vanderbilt had lost 3 straight games.
Yeah.
And coming up is a road game against Texas A&M, coming off a loss against the Tennessee Volunteers, and Texas A&M is a top 10 caliber team.
Yeah.
And you have them on the road. So you're looking at this Ole Miss game and saying you've lost the previous 3. If you don't pick up this Ole Miss win, you're staring 5 straight losses square in the face.
Yeah.
And then you have a top 15 opponent at home in Missouri, and it's hard psychologically to bounce back from 5 straight losses.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that it was a must win and that it would eliminate and the whole season is over. But as far as the psyche of this team and just a
confidence,
a gut feeling you had, this was a must win.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not only, like you said, not only for the tournament hopes, which with this win, we'll get into it a little bit more. This puts Vanderbilt in a really, really, really good position. They control their destiny after this game. It's a fact to say that Vanderbilt, as of right now, controls their destiny. But just from an aspect of psyche, like you said, man, just potentially losing 5 in a row. I mean, especially whenever you're a team that's starting to think, oh, we might be able to prove some people wrong. And then you just drop 5 in a row. You're like, maybe they were right.
And this would have been 4 in a row. I don't want to chalk up a game as a loss, but on the road against A&M, who is coming off a loss, is a tough matchup.
It's hard to not chalk it up as a loss.
But I put something in my recap that I 100% agree. Everything you said is accurate. And then you just layer on that if they would have lost this game to Ole Miss, that all 4 of those losses would have been games that you were either leading or within a point at halftime and you collapsed in the second half. All 4 of those would have been not just losses, but missed opportunities, games that you look back and they make you sick to your stomach as a fan, as a player, as a coach. You're like, we should have had one of those.
Yeah.
One of those. And Vanderbilt did not fully collapse in the second half.
No,
so
thank God.
Vanderbilt beat number 24 Ole Miss 77-72. Started out the game, Vanderbilt did very strong.
Yeah.
Started out hot. Ole Miss started out cold. Ole Miss started 0 for 7 from behind the 3-point line. Vanderbilt, I believe at about the 6-minute mark of the first half, was leading the game 34-15. They were in control.
Yeah.
At that point, Ole Miss turned it around, turned something on. They found something on offense. Vanderbilt ultimately went into halftime up 41-33. You were in Memorial. I was watching on TV. The momentum and vibe shift in that last 5 to 6 minutes of the first half, I could feel it.
It was sickening.
You could
it was
feel
sickening
it.
in
You
the
could
gym.
feel the momentum shift. And then the second half started out rough.
Bad.
Ole Miss came out, took the lead with about 16 minutes to go in the second half by a point, 47-46, I believe. And basically from that point on, Ole Miss and Vanderbilt kind of swapped back and forth. But Ole Miss held a lead for a majority of that game until about the, 5-minute mark. The game at about the 5-minute mark was a tie ball game, 64-64. This is when Chris Magnon came into play. He had been everywhere all game, making tons of momentum shifting plays, making the kind of unsung hero plays that hit shots at key moments. And then at about the 5-minute mark, came up with a steal, and then on the other end, buried a 3. His second of the game. Chris Magnon coming into the game was an 18% 3-point shooter, 2 for 2 from 3 during this game was huge. And then the following possession, Vanderbilt gets a stop against Ole Miss. Chris Magnon gets the rebound. They bring it up the court. Chris Magnon give and go, beautiful pass back, and he throws it down.
Just yams it.
To give Vanderbilt a 69-64 lead, and Memorial erupted.
Oh, deafening in Memorial.
And that was when my perspective, I was like, they're going to win this one. I had shifted from thinking this is going to be a sickening loss to Chris Magnon just changed my entire perspective of this game, completely changed the momentum and energy inside of that gym. So Chris Magnon earned point guard of the game, most valuable point guard. Chris Magnon led the team in scoring with 16 points. Pretty spread out offensive game from Vanderbilt. Jason Edwards with 15, Tyler Nickel with 13, Devin McLaughlin with 10, AJ Hogarth only with 2 points, Tyler Tanner with 6, and a couple key plays late in the game. Tyler Tanner was really good. Jalen Carey was 7 points, played kind of limited minutes. MJ Collins with 7, and Grant Huffman with 1. Grant Huffman actually played pretty well.
On defense, yeah, he has some good defensive stops.
I would say this game, Vanderbilt obviously won. What are your initial kind of takeaways? And then we can talk about further tournament hopes.
My takeaway right now is actually going to be a negative one. I don't know what is wrong with AJ Hogarth. And it's frustrating because I think I don't know if I've said this on the pod. I know I've definitely said it to people before. AJ Hogarth has the ability to take over games because you've seen it this year to where he can flip a switch. It's just that switch is not flipped on when the game starts. And a lot of the games, it never.
You're hitting on some key points. Maybe we'll pause on this. Keep going.
Oh, but yeah, but like, and sometimes he just doesn't turn it on at all during a game. And so my key takeaway after this game is one, I'm glad that Vanderbilt got the victory. They're in the driver's seat, but also I'm frustrated because if Vanderbilt wants to have real success come postseason, AJ Hogarth is going to have to start making some baskets.
Yeah, the reason I was pausing you is, remember, we did kind of transition into recaps just because the first question flowed really well, but we do have some more questions from the premium subscribers. And one of them I did click ahead a little bit as we were asking that first, and one of them is about Hogarth. So
well,
you've already partially answered it, but we will get to that in a second. So I'm going to give my kind of basic takeaway, and then we'll get back to the premium board questions. I'm putting that out there so one of us remembers.
Okay.
This takeaway for me was kind of an interesting game. I just misphrased that, but whatever. I viewed this team very much as Jason Edwards is a requirement to get fully going for this team to win.
Yes.
And not just him, but Jason Edwards and either Devin McLaughlin or Jalen Carey. One of those guys or A.J. Hogard has to have an unexpected big offensive game. That's kind of the 4 key pieces of the offense. And then Tyler Nickel is like, he's that
Like a
fire
spark
starter.
plug.
He's a spark plug.
Mhm.
You can win without him being hot, but if he's hot, boy, does it help
yeah,
you.
exactly. Yeah.
But what this game showed me was this team can win if the role players, and a key thing to watch down the stretch, the role players in Tyler Tanner, Grant Huffman, Chris Magnon. Those are the X factors. I thought Tyler Nickel was the X factor.
Mhm.
I think those 3 guys and the combination of them are X factors, because I know you gave the caveat of Grant Huffman played good defense. He's not an offensive guy.
No.
So him playing well is what he did. He contributed very well, guarded well, did what he needed to do. Tyler Tanner played well. Chris Magnon played well. That's who won them this game.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt can beat a top 25 team with kind of leading the way are those 3 guys and just normal contributions from the other quote-unquote stars on this roster. So I think if this team can ever put it all together, they truly can beat anyone. I don't know if we've actually seen this team put it all together, where everybody's played well, nobody's been in foul trouble, they've played a consistent 40 minutes, and they might never put it together. That's what separates great teams from good teams, is they don't ever put it together. And I think Vanderbilt's a good team. That's such a strong statement that I like. We've kind of lost a lot in this. Is like, Vanderbilt's a good team. Let's just sit on that for a second.
Yeah.
It's like, this team won 9 games last year. There's a tweet I wanted to bring up from Aria where it was saying Vanderbilt won 77-72, but won in a fashion that was not very inspiring.
Oh, Lord,
Or something along those lines. And I said, I'm quite inspired.
Yeah.
I quoted it, and I don't often interact with her because I disagree with a lot of her views. But how are you not inspired by a team seeing what has just happened in the previous 3 games against top 25 opponents, seeing a second half collapse begin to happen in front of their eyes, and then having unexpected stars rise to the forefront and step up in key moments in Chris Magnon and Tyler Tanner, and pull off a 5-point victory over the number 24 team in the country, securing your spot in the driver's seat, fully controlling your own destiny for postseason play, 1 year removed from winning 9 basketball games.
It's not like this was a South Carolina game.
How are you not inspired?
I don't know.
This team is not far removed from truly. They were picked this preseason, 16 out of 16. It was almost unanimous. You didn't even have guys like me disagreeing.
I think it was unanimous in terms of media.
Yeah, so I don't understand. We have shifted, and I'm picking on Aria. There's more Vanderbilt fans than her like this. I just want to keep hitting on, guys, do not move the damn goalposts. Keep the goalposts where they are. If you could take a time machine and flash back before game 1 and say, right now, this team is going to be sitting in the driver's seat to make the NCAA tournament, firmly sitting with 6 wins in conference play, 18-9. You would have taken that without question.
Yup.
You would have said, oh my God, yes. So let's not lose track of that.
Yes. That's
Now,
a great point. I love that.
we got to get to some more questions here. Okay, here we go. Let's find any more basketball questions. Okay, somebody asked, what would you like to see out of Hogard in the remaining games?
Score. Go to the bucket, be aggressive. Have shots fall. It's that simple. Don't be a liability on offense.
Yeah, Hogard is very talented. When I say I've played with a lot of guys like Hogard, I don't mean I've played with a lot of guys the caliber of Hogard. Growing up playing basketball since I was 4 years old, played with a lot of guys like Hogard. Very talented, very good driving, big body, can get to the basket. Not a great shooter, not a bad shooter, but shooting's not his thing. Primarily, he's a driver creator, not really a slasher, but a driver and creator. Oftentimes, I see Hogard driving into traffic without a plan, and that gets him in trouble. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he leads the team in turnovers, and I don't think it's close.
No.
And I have defended Hogard in a lot of group chats because I also say Hogard leads the team in turnovers because he's asked to do things other guys are not. And his field goal percentage is lower because when the shot clock is running down, he's the one they ISO and make him take the bad shot and put him into bad positions. So some of that is what he's being asked to do. However, Hogard has to stop too many times. He will just make decisions that make you scratch your head. I get as the primary ball handler and starting point guard in an offense that's not been together for a long time, there's going to be times you get put in bad spots. But there was one period, I think it was in the Ole Miss game, there was one play in particular, just down the court, A.J. Hogard just shot a pull-up transition 3 like 4 feet behind the line.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the timestamp, and I'm sorry I don't have more details, but that was a good example of like, I can deal with him driving into traffic occasionally making a bad decision. I can deal with the occasional drive in and put up a bad shot that gets blocked. You're like, what are you doing? That's a bad shot. It's that decision. It's like so far beyond the realm of bad decision making from a guy that's played a ton of college basketball and a ton of basketball. I want to see the decision making get better.
Yeah.
Because if the decision making gets better from Hogard, this team, the sky is the limit. This team is as good as anybody. If the shots are falling and Hogard's making good decisions, this team can play with anybody.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just want to keep going back to, man, if they had Kajani right, this team would be dangerous right now. They are dangerous, but man, teams would not want to be seeing Vanderbilt coming up on their schedule.
I agree.
Let's get the rest of these questions. I'm seeing if there's any more basketball before I go to baseball. He says, next question. Hey, guys, if we beat Missouri at home on Saturday, are we in?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
I personally believe unless something dramatically changes with the bubble, with how Vanderbilt's schedule plays out, unless they lose out, if they win one more game in conference, I think they're in, regardless of who it is. So if they beat Missouri, that's a better quality win. Gets them to 7. I think that gets them in. If it's Arkansas or Georgia, that knocks one of them off the bubble and gives Vanderbilt the win. So I think one more win and Vanderbilt is in.
It's so funny. I posted this on the board, a little discussion we had with somebody on the basketball staff, and I asked them how they felt after the win in terms of it being in the driver's seat. And they were like, man, we need 2 or 3 more. And I was like,
okay,
man.
that's good bulletin board
I didn't say it, but in my mind, and I said this on the board, in my mind, I want to be like, okay, man, like, come on. you need one more.
I don't want to hate on it at all, but it's kind of the same thing when you really did hear like murmurings out of the football program during the season that were like, we think there's a chance we can get to CFP. It's like, okay, guys, like I
eat it up though.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
But on another side, it's like I love how bought in these guys are. But on the outside, however, that's whiteboard material inside the locker room. In reality, bracketologists would harshly disagree.
Yeah.
And we were talking in the group messages. I'm in like 10 Vanderbilt group messages. But somebody was talking about, I don't know if they're in with one more win. And I said, buddy, if you're confident about that, you can make a shitload of money betting on that because the books and the money do not agree with you.
Yeah.
The books are saying if Vanderbilt wins one more game, they are in.
Yeah.
So that's the answer to that. Somebody also responded to that question in that same thread and said, yes.
Yeah.
So
I think, and like you said, most like Joe Lunardi and Jerry Palmer of ESPN and CBS, I think as of this morning, both have Vanderbilt at a 9 seed now.
I haven't looked as of late, but I could see it. Where their resume, this is where I never know exactly. And I think it really depends on the bracketologist. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is something everyone knows. I never know if the bracketologists are making their bracket prediction when it's this late in the season, fully based on the resumes that's presented in front of them, or with any sort of built-in expectations moving forward.
I don't know. I wonder the same.
Early in the year, I think it is purely based on the resume that they have. Right now, with how many games have been played, and you can really see what's left, because if you're looking at Vanderbilt's resume, purely based on resume, not looking at what they have remaining, resume, they should be about a 9 seed. Now, I think the expectation is that best case, they're going to go 2-2 these last 4 games, and that's probably what puts them at about a 10 seed.
Yeah.
I think if they win one more game out of these last, they'll be a 10-11 seed. If they win 2 more, they'll be a 9-10 seed. If they win 3 more, they'll be a 7-8 seed.
Yeah.
And I think it's that simple. If they lose out, they don't get in, and they don't deserve to get in.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
I agree.
It's at this point, this is why we kept saying the control your own destiny thing is a very overused phrase sometimes. Yeah. Vanderbilt controlled their own destiny before the Ole Miss game. It was just a much more complicated route to get there. They were in the
power steering.
They were in the driver's seat, but they didn't have power steering.
You were driving an old T-Mobile.
Yeah. Right now, they fully are in the driver's seat. You got to go 1-3 against, and I wanted to get to the games they have upcoming.
Yeah, you're driving a Subaru now.
You go on the road at number 12 Texas A&M. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Then you have at home against number 14 Missouri, who Vanderbilt played already this year at one point. Missouri's a very good team playing very well.
They're hot right now.
But Vanderbilt's at home.
Yes.
And so I'm not chalking that one up as a loss the same way as the A&M game. Even though I think Missouri's a damn good basketball team, at Memorial, I truly believe it's not back in the aura. It's back.
And whiteout too.
There is a feeling around this fan base. This Ole Miss win. We've talked about it before that people are like, get to Memorial, get to Memorial. This Ole Miss win is the kind of win that gets the casuals' attention.
Yeah.
This is the one that got posted across NCAA March Madness and CBS Sports is Vanderbilt gets huge Q. This is the one that draws a lot of casual attention. So it's amazing. I feel like I'm giddy, like a kid in a candy store. I cannot believe we're talking about real meaningful basketball right now in mid to late February. We're back.
Well, it's crazy because like we're grown ass men. The last time we were able to talk like this, like we actually like we were kids. You know what I mean? As crazy as that sounds, like
freshmen in college.
we were
like
kids.
18.
Yeah.
And then Vanderbilt has the two most important games of the season, the last two games of the season, two relatively bottom tier SEC teams. That does not mean bad teams. That doesn't even mean non-NCAA tournament teams. It just means bottom tier SEC teams that are currently below Vanderbilt in the standings. And that is at home against Arkansas. Coach Cal headed to Memorial. That one scares the ever-living shit out of me.
Because they need that.
That one scares me. And
Arkansas needs
and
that.
if there's a coach that is familiar with Memorial and is going to have his team ready to play Vanderbilt, it's Cal.
I agree.
That scares me.
I agree.
And then a game that is a little bit slept on in the minds of Vanderbilt fans, I think, on the road against Georgia.
On the road.
It's on the road, and it is going to be a Georgia team that I think will be fighting for their NCAA tournament lives.
I agree as well. On the bubble team.
I think it will be a Georgia team that if they lose this game, they will not be in the tournament.
I agree.
Eliminate their chances.
I agree.
There is not a single win or a single game that you can point at and say that is an easy win or a win Vanderbilt even should have. However, they got to go 1-3 in the last 4 games.
Yep.
If you can't do that, I'll state it right now. You don't deserve to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. And I think Mark Byington and the players and the fans should all be fine with that. Is they have a chance right now. This is what you play for. This is what you train for. This is why you transferred to Vanderbilt to revamp this program, is to have 4 games left on the schedule, and you got to win 1 to go dancing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a fun ride, and I'm excited about it.
We just experienced this with football to where we were looking at the tail end of that schedule, and we're like, okay, you have Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, Tennessee. It's like, you just got to get 1.
Yep.
You just got to get 1 and you're in.
You've done the grunt work.
Yep.
You've done the work. You've done it. You've set yourself up in the position you need to be in. Now it's time to do it.
Yep.
And man, hell of a job by Byington, hell of a job by the players, hell of a job by everyone, because that Ole Miss game, I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. This was another example, and I want to speed through this because we got to talk baseball. I'm sorry, and we got to go to the TDR cocktail break.
Yeah.
I want to keep talking about this. But this was another example of a game that this program for the last 8-9 years would have lost that game.
Absolutely.
This is a new regime, a new program, new players, new faces, new everything. I think this program turned a corner during that Ole Miss game. They've turned
a great way to point
They
it.
turned a corner early in the season. Early SEC play, picking up a few wins early. They turned a corner in the Tennessee game and the Kentucky game. That was one corner. This Ole Miss game was another corner. This was another one that was like, okay, maybe we are overcoming the ghost of Kevin Stallings here.
Yeah.
Maybe those demons are being exercised. So, Trevor, I'm feeling good. I'm predicting they're going to win at least one of these last 4 games.
I agree.
I personally think it will be the Missouri game. I think they will beat Missouri.
Okay, I think it's going to be Arkansas.
Okay, I'm getting it out there early because I will not be able to write recaps how I have been during basketball season because I will be attempting to snowboard.
Yeah.
But I think that Missouri game is going. I think they will lose to A&M.
I agree.
And I think that they will beat Missouri. And I also think they will beat Georgia.
Okay.
I think they will go 2-2. And I think they will lose to Arkansas at home.
Before we go to cocktail break, I want to hit on something that you said, talking about like the aura of that is Memorial Gymnasium coming back. It's like, I agree, it's not fully there yet, but when you are in Memorial Gym this season, like you can feel it. Like you can feel it as a fan. You're like, man, this is they're starting to hit their stride. And I want to point out that Missouri game, big game. If Vanderbilt loses to Texas A&M, you're gonna have a lot of Vanderbilt fans saying, okay, top 25 team coming into Memorial. at home. Can you do it? And like I said, officially announced whiteout.
Wow.
So those old school Memorial vibes might come back for that game.
That is a game. I will unfortunately be on the other side of the country. I don't have season tickets to basketball, but I do go to games. That Missouri game is one I would be getting a ticket to without a doubt in my mind if I was in the state of Tennessee.
Whenever you're in Colorado or Seattle, you got to wear white that day.
Yep. Everybody out there, if you don't have a ticket and you're in even the state of Tennessee, get a damn ticket, wear white, get to Memorial. That's going to be a fun environment for the first time in a long time. But we need to go to the TDR cocktail break because we need to talk about baseball and answer some baseball questions from the premium message board subscribers. And we only have about 15 minutes left.
Yeah.
So, Trevor,
we're doing good so far.
Yeah, everybody out there, I just burped into the mic. Whoops. Everybody out there, grab yourself a cold one, and we will be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome back into a rapid fire episode 304 of the Door Report. We are going to baseball now, and then we are going to talk about whatever we can in the final 14 minutes of episode 304 as we are on a hard stop and hard deadline. It's almost like we're doing normal radio right now.
Wow. Fascinating. It's not that difficult.
Okay. So first into baseball, we're going to go to questions. Because I think anybody listening to, let's just go ahead and say the scores. I'm going to go ahead and do that before questions. So, because some people actually that are listening to this might be actually looking for the information on preseason or non-conference weekend series, not preseason, but the closest thing we have in college to preseason is college baseball non-con.
It's kind of spring training right now.
But right now, Vanderbilt showed a lot this weekend. Vanderbilt swept St. Mary's. In game 1, Vanderbilt won 11-4. Game 2, Vanderbilt won 13-7. Game 3, Vanderbilt won 10-0 in 7 innings. St. Mary's, I just want to put out there because I know because I'm one of the people. A lot of people just lump all these teams together, especially teams you haven't really heard of. People know like Dallas Baptist. People even know
UC Irvine.
Yeah, people even know UC Irvine, whatever. People know these kind of smaller baseball schools, but teams like St. Mary's often get lumped in with like this group of anonymous baseball schools. St. Mary's was 34-22 last season. They were a damn good baseball team. I believe we're close to or did make the tournament.
They almost made the tournament.
They were close to making the tournament. And then this year started out the season absolutely dominating lower level competition, just obliterating their opponents. And beat number 21 UC Santa Barbara 5-1 in the game in their matchup prior to facing Vanderbilt in the weekend series.
Historically good California baseball school.
Yeah, so they were top 25 this year. Not even just historically.
Not even historically.
Good.
This year,
they were just
good baseball
good.
program.
So I want to emphasize that this wasn't Vanderbilt beating. I don't want to use Tennessee Tech because a few years ago they were damn good, but this wasn't
Austin P.
Yeah, this wasn't. This wasn't Vanderbilt beating Austin P. This wasn't Vanderbilt beating Hofstra by 30.
Yeah.
Like this is Vanderbilt beating a potential NCAA tournament team, sweeping them, putting up double-digit runs in every game. Now that doesn't mean Vanderbilt dominated every game for the full stretch. The bats got going late in game 1 and game 2.
Yeah,
the bats got going. But they got going late.
At least they got going.
But they got going. In game 3 was a domination. Yeah. And Cody Bowker had the performance of the weekend.
Nails.
He pitched a no-hitter.
Yeah.
In the time he was in there. 6 strikeouts, I believe, pitched 5 innings.
5 innings.
Unfortunately, not an official no-hitter because once the bullpen came in, they gave that up. But let's go to the board questions. I want to talk more, but we are under strict time constraints. So I'm sorry you're getting a different TDR experience right now. I want to swing it to Trevor, but Trevor, we don't have time.
No, I'll write some long-form content for the people this week to make up for it.
Perfect. All right, first question about baseball. We only have like 2 or 3. But first question about baseball says, at what point does Corb see our non-conference schedule and re-examine scheduling hard early? We played a top 25 team and 3 very solid mid-major programs the first 2 weekends. Now we're gearing up to go cross-country and play 3 power conference teams, and most SEC teams have yet to touch another power conference team, let alone travel for it. When the SEC was down in baseball and we were running things, it made sense because we'd sweep almost every series except Florida, LSU, and occasionally South Carolina or Mississippi State. But now that we are fighting for our lives week in and week out in conference play, it seems as if building some confidence by blasting teams in opening weekends would pay dividends down the road. Just seems as if we struggle to develop any momentum the past 3 years, and I feel as if not warming up the bats / letting our young pitchers settle in and build some confidence might be a piece of the puzzle. I want to shout out. That was from World's Strongest Vandy fan. That was actually a rant I wanted to go on. So thank you. But Trevor,
I will say, and it's like he said, he gave the reason that in previous years you kind of had to because the SEC baseball wasn't as good as it is now. I think we do have to realize, though, that Tim Corbin is cut from a different cloth. And like he's pointed out, even though SEC baseball hasn't always been this great, it's been pretty great for a very, very long time. And Tim Corbin has done this his entire career. So I think it's too late for him to change. I think that's just who he is. And he's even made mentions that he is a very much a trial by fire type guy.
So I wish we had more time because this is a rant. This is a very complex answer to this, not even a question, but a comment. I agree without a doubt. It's not a question of if, it is a missing piece of the puzzle right now to Vanderbilt baseball. Okay. So I will make that statement. It's not an if, it is. Mm-hmm. So what he is getting at is not that SEC baseball has been bad. Mm-hmm. SEC baseball has been one of the best baseball conferences in the country for our whole lives. Yeah. One of the best. However, the reason that no SEC football program is scheduling excessively hard games for 3 of their 4 non-con games 99% of the time. They'll schedule 1 for TV ratings and different things. But 3 of their 4 are cupcakes. Yeah. Go look at Tennessee, Bama, Georgia, whoever you want. 3 of the 4 are cupcakes. There's a reason for that. It's because in conference play, it's not just you have a good conference. You have undeniably the best conference. And it's happening in basketball. I think Vanderbilt basketball is a great example of this. They built confidence early in non-con play going 12-1. Do you know what Vanderbilt's current KenPom non-conference strength of schedule is?
Probably bad. Not probably. I know it's bad.
Number 344.
So almost dead last.
Does it feel right now like that was detrimental to the growth of this team?
That's a good point.
And so that's where I'm getting, and I think he hit on a great nuance here, is I agree with the trial by fire type thing for certain teams and in certain situations. However, I had a high school basketball coach that was very much trial by fire pre-district play in basketball. And we would go and we would play all the teams no one else would schedule, whatever it was. Whoever, if it was Riverdale, if it was Brentwood, we'd go play in the invitational tournaments with teams from Alabama that nobody from the Middle Tennessee area wanted to play because they were just losses. He would schedule those. And I will tell you, as a member on the team, it's much better to just toss in those tough games and tough series than to have consistently tough. It is better for you to beat the shit out of like 3 or 4 low-level opponents and then get a reality check and then beat the shit out of 2 or 3 shitty opponents and then get a reality check. So I think there is some balance here that Corbin really needs to strike because there has to be an understanding that, yes, before the SEC was one of the best conferences in college baseball. Now it is truly week in, week out. It's like football. Yeah. You're playing a team that is one of the best 50 baseball teams in the country every weekend. Yeah. You got to give your team some time to warm up and feel good about themselves because that's just as big of a factor as trial by fire. That doesn't mean I think you should always have the 344th ranked non-conference schedule. I think there's a balance there. But yeah, I think there is something to that it's nice for fans and nice for players to see those stats looking crazy beginning of the year and seeing your team put up 22 runs and seeing your guys batting 480 with 12 home runs and non-con. There's something to that, man. There just is.
I think if you asked Tim Corbin right now, he would look at you and say, well, that's what we got midweek games for.
I got you. Know, look, and I'm not even like if I sat down, I'd give that opinion. And if Corbin disagreed, I'd be like, I'm not even like disagreeing at the core of your values. I'm just saying,
like, have you thought about this?
Yeah, there's room on the other side. Like, you should schedule high quality opponents throughout non-con. I think you'd be a fool to not do things like go to the MLB Desert Invitational or play a team like St. Mary's. But it's just like back to back. Yeah. And then you also have Air Force in between that who just beat the shit out of Navy in their first non-top 15 SEC opponent. Like, That's tough.
Cut the boys
It's
some
tough.
slack.
Like, it's kind of how I felt about Air Force starting out the year with Florida and Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
There's like the trial by fire, and then there's destroying your team's confidence
Yeah.
to start the year.
Send
I think
them
it's
to
a
the
fine
seventh ring
line.
of hell.
We got 5 minutes. I don't even want to read this. It's from one of the wilder members of the board.
What was it?
Just said thoughts on Steve Smith Sr. rearranging that Ravens band member's IUD.
I did see that on Twitter.
I did.
Shout
No
out to
comment.
him, I suppose.
That's all we
Impressive.
have from the premium message board. Subscribers had to end it with that. That's it. He will appreciate. I'm sure he listens to this. Whoever that, I won't read.
Oh, Chester?
It's Chester.
Oh, of course it's Chester.
It's Chester. Some people on the board wanted us to regulate him to start out while we were moderating the board. We did. There were some things I had to moderate with his behavior. However, for the most part, Chester, keep it up. We like what you're doing.
Chester is an unregulated man.
You're under a new regime. This is not an unregulated X type situation on the board. Keep it on topic. Don't aggressively attack other members of the board. But at the same time, if somebody writes some dumb shit, you can call it out. Like you're allowed to disagree or say what? Like you're allowed to respectfully say what the hell. So Chester, keep it up. Everybody on the board, keep it up. We actually got some thanks and some congratulations. And
that was very sweet. Yeah, we
posts on the board.
appreciate that.
Yeah, some people talking about that we're not doing a terrible job. So I really, really appreciate that. So the people that have stuck with us through this transition. But big things coming. And once we stop fighting the Vanderbilt administration to give us press credentials, things could go to a whole nother level.
Still no update, guys.
Still
no
update on
response.
that. But Trevor, we have about 2 minutes here. No, 3 minutes here. Anything else you want to add on episode 304 before we close things out?
If Mancini and
Jesus.
Fuck, don't tell me what Mancini and
Johnston
can put it together, these bats might get even more
This
hot.
is why radio sucks and everybody should be doing podcasts and only listening to podcasts. I had so many things I wanted to talk about, and being under a time constraint sucks.
Yes.
Number one, the main baseball thing I wanted to talk about was, outside of Bowker being great, was we saw Johnston and Mancini.
Yeah.
That's huge. I can't believe I forgot to bring it up earlier. We did not know. We assumed that Mancini was going to be out until basically SEC play.
We thought they were going to be out for a while.
And Johnston was going to be out for an extended period of time. We saw both this weekend against St. Mary's.
Yeah.
And both looked very good.
Mhm.
And those are pieces of the puzzle. In fact, Johnston was the one that got the scoring started on Sunday with his first single as a Vanderbilt Commodore being an RBI single. So shout out to Brody Johnston. But if those two guys being back and healthy, Corbin, I love you. I hate you. Because you really messed with our heads on that one with the injury. We were
not expecting it.
We were very depressed last episode talking about baseball, because I kept being like, when those guys are inserted, it's going to feel a little better. It's going to feel better. But for now, we're just going to be struggling through non-con. And then those guys get inserted into the lineup. Vanderbilt scores 3 straight games of double digits.
They just let their nuts hang 3 straight games.
Granted, it wasn't really because of those guys, but they were nice to see back in the lineup.
Yeah.
And they had great at-bats from all of them. Johnston, he's young, but he looks the part so far.
He's got a great body.
Mancini looks the part, looked very comfortable at the plate. That's always the concern coming off a type of fracture or whatever he had going on. He looked very comfortable. So getting these guys back in non-con, letting them get warmed up, kind of getting back to what that question was about warming up or building momentum in non-con play. Granted, this is higher competition, but it's lower competition than they're going to face in SEC play. So seeing those guys on the field was great.
Yeah. Before we close it out, what did you think of the new white pinstripes?
I hated the hat.
I hate the hat.
The uniforms, I had no problem with.
Uniform's fine. I hate the hat.
Not as good as the gangster pajamas.
No.
So firmly, I will stand on this. I don't even think this is controversial. The best uniform in Vanderbilt history is gangster pajamas. I don't mean that nobody disagrees.
Yeah, I would probably
but it's
go.
Not a bad take.
It's the most iconic.
It's not a hot take.
It's the most iconic too.
No, when I think of Vanderbilt, I think of gangster pajamas. And every time I see them wear them, I think these are the best uniforms. Like
these are the best uniforms in college baseball.
We can keep having arguments about it, but I know it's just because it's boring. Like these are the best uniforms.
Yeah,
they just are.
Yeah.
And so the white pinstripes, I liked the uniform. The hat looked cheap.
I hate the '80s bi-color hat.
And the white V inside of the white front. It
did not
looked
like it.
like a $19.99 plus $4.05 shipping hat that's unlicensed you buy off Amazon.
It looks like something I could get at the Circle K.
Yeah,
up
I
here.
did not like that, but I did like the white. I did like the pinstripes.
Yeah.
The pinstripes are good. The hat sucked.
Hat sucks.
Sucked.
I'll stand on this. I hate the Sunday olives.
I don't hate them as much as others, but I don't love them either. Like if they went away, I'd have no problem.
Yeah.
But I'm just not passionate about them the way others are. I think that
People think I'm anti-American because I hate them.
No, in a way, the Sunday olives, I view them not as ugly, but kind of like the Browns colors. It's like they're ugly and they've stuck with them, and they're just like they're cool because they've stuck with them. And it's like they're green like the military uniforms, and they're like, you guys don't get it, you're fools.
Yeah.
And so they're
You guys
not.
hate the troops?
I personally thought that white hat was 10x more egregious than the olive greens. The white hat was my least favorite thing I've ever seen the Vandy boys wear.
It's bad.
No,
It's bad.
If somebody can hopefully, please, if somebody disagrees, and this will be the last thing we say because we got to close it out. If somebody disagrees and finds an uglier thing that they've worn, and I swear to God, if you send me the gray throwbacks, I'm going to be pissed because those are intentionally monotone and ugly.
Oh, but they're so pretty.
But they're beautiful.
Oh,
But if somebody sends me those, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah.
But find me another Vandy Boys era baseball uniform or piece of the uniform that's uglier than those white hats, the white and black hats they wore with the white pinstripes. Please show it to me because that was the least favorite thing I've seen in 20 years of being a Vanderbilt fan.
I agree.
Not across all sports. Now there have been some uglier things in football. And
Football
basketball.
takes king.
Football and basketball had some ugly ones.
Yeah.
But in baseball's usually
Always
on
sexy.
point, always
Ooh.
good. But that sucked. So
Yeah.
all right, Trevor, we got to close it out.
We do have
All
to
right.
close it out.
So for myself, Will Byram, and my co-host Trevor Hewlin, this has been episode 304 of the Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.